So some of the stuff you're going to need besides your RTS workbook, you may be helpful to have this. This is the product and equipment um, training materials. This one is the leaders or trainers guide. This is the one that has all the answers, the solid one. And then you should have received a copy of the schedule because we're going to be talking about the schedule as well a little bit. So those are the main pieces we're going to need today as we go through the material.
Russell, do you want transcription or no?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So we'll start off like we normally do, and that's with a little bit of a review. We've completed 3 sessions so far, and it's really laid the groundwork for our training program. So it's a lot of talking about relationships, giving feedback. It's adult learning. So it really sets us up for how do I lead this program is kind of what we've been doing. So what's one thing that you've learned so far? The biggest thing you've learned that said, okay, this is important. This is good for me. Raise your hand.
I would say the feedback stuff that we learned last week, the STAR.
Okay. The STAR and STAR AR.
Yeah, I think it's very important to give your employees praise, give them good supportive feedback when they do things good.
Yep. And I think that's I thank you for sharing, Amy. Providing feedback is critical, especially when you have trainees. They need to know what they're doing well and what are their opportunities. And you think about it, these external managers that are going to be there, their supervisors will not be seeing what's going on. So they're going to rely on you to tell them what this person did well and what are their opportunities. And so I like to say this to any of the RTSs that I've worked with. I like to say, pretend you are a franchisee and you've just sent somebody across the country for training. You're paying their salary, you paid a training fee, you paid for plane tickets, you've paid for hotel, you're paid for a rental car, you're paying for all this food for a 2-week time period. So you're easily going to spend $8,000 to $10,000 in that 2-week time period. What kind of information do you want to hear? Do you want to hear they did a good job? Or do you want very specific type of information? What did they do well? What are things they need to work on? And so that's the beauty of STAR and STAR AR feedback. And when those that haven't been to People, Pride, and Profit go, we dive into that even more. And you're going to get more time to practice and understand that. And we go into a lot of detail about STAR and STAR AR. And so you're going to get even more information and more practice when you do that. So thank you, Amy, for starting us off. What's one more person? What's something you've learned so far? Teresa?
I think for me, it's just to be better prepared whenever I am training.
Okay.
Because I mean, just doing my video, I realized what I needed. And in the beginning of it, I was like, oh, wait, I need this. And oh, wait, I need this. So I think it is really important to be prepared.
Yep. And we're going to talk about that a little more today, but I think it's crucial for us as trainers. We need to have all of our materials, right? And so here's what we do when we're teaching a class. The day before, we actually get everything and make sure we have everything. We make sure videos work. We make sure all this stuff works. And then we check it again in the morning, like something's going to happen overnight. But we check it in the morning because you never know, right? Because you've got technology. Somebody cleaning the room may move something. You just don't know what might happen. And so it's really, it's about being prepared, I think, and it gets you in the right frame of mind. Um, I, I would, I would add something to that as well, though, Teresa. Sometimes you can be really, really prepared and something crazy happens. So I think it's also being flexible, being adaptable to different situations. So knowing what you're going to do, and what you're trying to get accomplished that day is so critical. And part of that comes with the preparation. But a bus pulls in. You know what? Your training plan for that period of time is out the window because you've got a bus. And so now it's all hands on deck. You've got to take care of business. And so things like that happen. And being prepared helps you be ready for that. But sometimes there's things happen and there's nothing you can do about it. You don't know the soft serve machine's going to break down. We've had it, or a line busts, something like that. Those are things that just happen, right? So pretty crazy stuff. Afton, I see you joined us. We're just talking about some of the biggest things we learned so far, and it's been feedback was one of the big ones, and somebody put it in. Kelly also put that in the chat, and then Teresa shared it was being prepared. So that was the big one. So what's one thing you think you need to work on to get ready to be a better trainer?
I would say time management.
Okay. Time management. There's a lot being thrown on your plate, right? And your plate is already full trying to run a restaurant, trying to make sure that things happen. And what's the biggest thing we've been saying to help you with time management?
Monkeys.
Get those monkeys off your back and
planning schedules.
Schedule training. There's something else I'm looking for. It's a person.
The trainers.
Yep. Your training buddies, right? The other trainers. Those things can really help with time management and make sure that we're ready to go, that we have everything we need to take care of the business and take care of the training at the same time. Somebody else, what's one thing that you found you might need to work on? And it might be your restaurant. Might not be you personally. It might be your restaurant.
So for me, it was alternative action.
Okay.
And results. I think that it all boils down to the standards and performance against those standards. So STAR is good, and then that alternative action, helping people understand the redirection and the why behind that, so that they can, why of the whys behind the standard are hugely important. So I think that was good feedback to really think about how do we apply that alternative action when we're providing feedback.
Yeah, and I think it is, because sometimes we just tell somebody, I need you to stop doing that. We don't help them come up with a better plan on what should they be doing. We just expect them, make an assumption that they know that they should do. And sometimes their solution is horrible. And we need to help them see that that's not the best solution and explain why, and then maybe give them another alternative. So it's not just just a little quick conversation. Sometimes it could be more. You've got somebody that's habitually late. They're going to come up with all sorts of excuses and reasons why, and they're going to do that. Well, you need to be able to get specific with them, and there needs to be a plan, an alternative action that they do. Well, good. Thank you, Pat. Dan?
Yeah, no, to add on to Pat, because I thought that was very impactful, is alternative results, and asking them, so it's a little bit of self-development, self-growth for them. But just when you're giving specific feedback feedback when it's positive, the impact or result. Because generally it's, hey, really, I don't know, that was a really great blizzard that you made. The portioning was perfect. High five, right? And then we don't talk about what's the result of that? What's the impact to the fans? What's the impact to the cost of goods? What's the impact to the expectation for the fans when they come back? We do a lot of, hey, if it's solar pollution, they're going to expect it like that all the time, right?
Yeah.
Instead of talking about specifically how does that impact different areas.
Yep. And I think that result, and then, for Star AR, why that result isn't good. Why is that not acceptable? And it's not mean. It's just saying what it is. So now they understand, and hopefully they can apply that to other things they're doing because they have that result and they go, oh, I now understand why that's important. I probably need to do this because that's probably just as important as blending the blizzard all the way to the bottom, making the cone, the curl in the right direction, not damaging the curl or whatever it might be. They get to understand that a little bit better and can apply it to other things. And that's really what you want to do. And, again, it's providing that feedback helps people grow. And that's what we want. We don't want people to just reach a plateau and stop. We want a continuous improvement because if we get that continuous improvement in our employees, then they're going to be better equipped to handle the fans that come in, which means our fans are going to get better service and our OSAT's going to go up. And if our OSAT goes up, that means transactions are going to go up. And if transactions go up, that means our profitability chance goes up. And so it's all tied together, but it starts with us giving feedback and having the tools and resources for our employees. Let's see. What's one thing that you believe either your restaurant or you already do, you have in place, you're ready for trainees? What's one thing that you're thinking, I really don't need to work too much on that? Anybody got something that you say, I feel pretty good about this? Afton and then Teresa.
I would say organization and job aids and build charts.
Okay. So you believe right now your restaurant is really organized. It's easy for trainees to find something. You've got all the build charts. You've got all of that in place. Wonderful. That's great. That's good for your new trainees as well as external people. So wonderful. Miss Teresa.
I was also going to say the organization, but also for me, I think the knowledge of my team is really good because they've all been there for a really long time too.
Okay. Wonderful. Good for you. That means you're doing a lot of things right. And you've created that culture that people want to stay. And as they stay, they get better at what they do. So good for you, Teresa. That's wonderful news. Kelly.
I would say organization as well. I have everything labeled here, and I think taps and caps is really important when it comes to training. So I think that's really well thought out in my store. So I think that gives us as an advantage, what helps with speed, so forth and so forth.
Yep. And having people that are trained in multiple areas so you can move people around to help with bottlenecks via taps or caps. So that position-based training really helps get us prepared for taps and caps. And so that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today a little bit, is really diving into how does that help us? What are some things we can do to make sure we're ready? And I love that everything is labeled because that helps people know, okay, this is this size cup and this is this cup. And, it's easy for somebody new to not know what cups are what, because we've got a lot of cups. As you're well aware, we've got a lot of cups. So being organized helps with all that. I'm going to do one more question for you. Why do you think it's important to separate, explain, and demonstrate? Teresa.
Because some people learn better by hearing it and some people hear better by seeing it.
Okay, good. What would you add to that, Kelly? You got something to add, or is that you going to say?
That's exactly what I would say. I mean, because word of mouth is so much different than actually doing it hands on. So, because there is different types of learners.
All right. How do you think you did on your second video? Did you do a pretty good job of separating? That's a question for anybody.
I think I did. I really do. I think I did a little bit better on the second video than the first one.
Video.
Because I took more time and I began by talking about the different job aids that we have available to us, where I might not have, because when you're doing the demonstrate explain together, you're just doing it because you're so used to doing it. It's unconscious competence, and you're talking and you might not be saying the right things and referencing the job aids and the other tools that they have available to them.
Yeah, I'm going to tag on to that a little bit, Dan. I think that you, when you explain, you tend to think through the process more. Teresa, to go back what you said earlier, it's being prepared is one of the big things you learn. I think you prepare more when you explain because you're thinking, what am I going to need? What am I going to want to show them? You start doing those things. Whereas if you just jump in, you may not do some of the things you were supposed to do or you wanted to do because it's not there. You just jumped in and you're like, oh, I don't have a scale, or where's my cone stuff? Because the cone size charts aren't on the front of the machine anymore. Because last night, whoever was there was cleaning and they bent them all up, so they took them off and never put them back. Well, if you jumped in to demonstrate, you may not even realize they weren't there. So that's a big, big thing we can do. So good. So let's jump over to the next slide and talk about that form. How did you find this easy to use? Did you find this difficult to use? How was it for you? Teresa?
So I think it's really easy to use, just not on myself. It's harder to say things about yourself than it is somebody else.
100%. And to watch yourself on video is frightening, right? Yes. I'm right there with you. All right, Kelly.
I really liked the form. It made me think outside of the box because I got really comfortable with, I guess you can say, judging the trainee and, criticizing them and getting them where they need to be. So this helped me stay organized with the Adoka method. So I really like the chart.
Good. How about Amy? How'd you feel about the chart?
Yeah, it's a little harder to do on yourself, but I mean the chart was pretty easy to fill out. But yeah, judging yourself was not so easy.
No, we're typically more critical of ourselves. Typically are. Afton, what did you think?
I really like the form as well. It is very easy. And then I also like the comments where we can use the star AR feedback, and that's very helpful.
Yep. Okay, good. So for the ones that I had a chance to review, you noticed that I sent back comments to all the ones that I received and talked about what did you do? What was the big thing? What did I say about yours? What comment did I give you?
You said to me that I don't just need to be critical of myself, I can give myself some star feedback as well.
Yep. Yeah, Yulia. Did I say that to anyone else? I said it to Dan. I said it to Teresa. I said it to everybody, didn't I? So part of giving feedback is being balanced, right? And so those are things that you want to do is look for things that people do right, especially when they're first starting to train. You know, the first cone or sundae they make more than likely is not going to be servable. But if they get 5 ounces or within the standard of 5 ounces where that's at, you celebrate that. You say, great, you've got the portioning down. Now let's make it a masterpiece. Let's look at the form and let's work on that. So you've given them some feedback on that. You get them star. That gets them excited, like maybe I can do this. If you only focus on the negative that they did wrong, it sometimes beats people down and they're like, I'm never going to get this. So it's a negative to them. And it maybe makes them not want to come back tomorrow because they feel defeated, if you will. So I think that's something that you have to think about when you're giving feedback. I see Kelly's hand up. I'm not sure if that's been up from before.
Yeah, that's just before. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Just didn't want to miss you. Dan, I saw your hand come up.
She was saying hallelujah. And she was
Yeah.
saying hallelujah. What I like about this form, and I don't know if the GMs have thought about it this way, is that this is a great tool or resource as you are developing new trainers or trying to validate that people know how to train. Because obviously that's what this form is for. It's for a general manager to observe their assistant managers or their shift leaders or any coaches when they're training somebody else to provide them feedback. I think it's a great tool. And I know that we really haven't talked about, we're going to use it going forward with all of our new district training specialists. Hey, here's a great tool for you to help develop your team.
Yeah, wouldn't it be neat if all the managers that come into your location started loving this form and you said, why don't we make this something we use in all of our restaurants? So you teach them, because why shouldn't I use this on a crew member? I mean, or the person that's training the crew member, sorry. Why wouldn't I want to make sure that they have that knowledge and skill so they understand it? Because how many of your other restaurants are just stepping up, combining, explain, and demonstrate, rushing through, not giving the feedback they need to, not concentrating, not being prepared? How many of those do you think are out there? And I can
There's
tell you a lot.
I'll tell you, I've been to every one of these young ladies stores, and they have some really good trainers that have done a great job teaching them the Adoka model. Some of them still, they put explain and demonstrate together. And I mean, they're trainers, not specifically them, even though some of them did that as well. But I know in general, when you think about our industry or Dairy Queen, all the Dairy Queens out there, every store's got somebody training. And how do we decide who's training? He's really good. Right? He's good. Your best grill cook, which, as we all know on this call, your best grill cook doesn't mean that they're the best trainer, right?
Yep.
They might not have the skills. They might not be able to communicate. They might be making it wrong because you're not paying attention. So I think that this really provides a great pathway process to help general managers teach, develop, coach, and hold accountable their trainers, the people that are training their other crew members.
And that's why we developed it, because it's not something that takes a lot of effort to learn how to use. It's something that could easily be used in a restaurant by anybody, really. So we use it day one of training. Your trainees, following our schedule, your trainees are going to have to teach each other how to wash their hands. And they're all going to be using this form. They're all going to have to teach you how to make a product, or you're going to have to watch them teach somebody to make some type of product in both the chill area and the grill area. So they're going to have to understand how to use this because it's really important that we train correctly. So it's a big it's a big ask. It's a big task. It's an easy task. It's not difficult, but if we want people to get to proficiency faster, we need to be able to give them the feedback. And this helps us give them that feedback. Especially the trainers, the people that don't go through formal training. That's your job now to teach those folks how to train. That's a big part of what we do in product and equipment training. Yes, we're teaching them about how do I work these different positions? How do I make all these products? How do I work the equipment? Just as importantly, you need to teach people how to train others how to do those things. Because when they go back to their restaurant, they have to implement that. They have to train their people how to do it correctly. And if we haven't taught them how to train, how are they going to do that and be impactful to their entire crew? And the answer is they probably won't. So, all right. Well, you also had a chance to do a second video. Thinking back to that second video, is there anything you would change if we asked you to do a third video? And we are not asking you to do a third video. Want to put that out first. Is there something that you would go back and change even more? Teresa, your hand came up pretty quick.
So I would change in my second video. I didn't say anything about the charts, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And there was a lot of things actually between my first video and my second video that I noticed a lot of differences on. But that is the one thing that I noticed about my second video.
Okay. Now, there is a chance to overload with information, right? So I can't spend 15 minutes talking about how to make a cone before I start making a cone. You'll lose them. So you have to decide what are the key items. And then after you explain and demonstrate, then you can go back and maybe you let them make a couple and observe and say, okay, here's some other things that can help you. Here's this chart. Here's this. Here's this. Here's a best practice that I learned a long time ago. And you can do those types of things. So you don't necessarily overload somebody up front, but you can add little bits and pieces as they grow and learn and start adding to it as they do that. Because remember, they're going to have watched a video about formed products. So they're going to know that. They're going to, from when you're making a cone, they've already understood that because they've already done blended treats. So you've already went through the positions of all the blizzard positions. You've already went through the blended treat things. They already have an understanding of the baseball and curl. Now you're going to be able to give them a little more specifics when it comes to doing a cone. And so those are things to think about as you're training and as you're training buddies. You know, you start getting the color of the ring on the bottom of the cone. You've got the drip ring. You've got the little waffles that are at the bottom of the cone. What's their purpose? You've got the chart. You've got the scale. And all of a sudden you've spent 10 minutes talking and they're like, I don't know where I'm at. All they do is they see words coming out of your mouth. You're the Charlie Brown teacher. You're wah, 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 wah. That's all they're hearing at that point. And so you have to know when is enough. And that comes with time and practice is what that comes with, because it's going to be a little bit different for each training. All right. So let's dive into today's materials then. The training programs currently are divided into these 4 segments. So for somebody to be a fully certified Dairy Queen manager, they need to have the 2 in-restaurant portions, which is product and equipment training. We've got the service and shift lead and the manager and financial basics, which is the second portion of in-restaurant training. We'll talk about that next week. You have people, pride, and profit is the third portion. And then what's not listed up here is ServSafe. So they have to have manager level ServSafe certification. So those are the items that people have to do. Now, 14 Foods has 99% full food locations. I believe you have 1 or 2 treat locations, but all of you are at full food locations. And so yours is going to be divided into 2 different in-restaurant portions: product and equipment, service, shift lead, manager, financial basics is 1. If there's ever a treat training, those 3 segments are all in one class, because typically there's less people, there's less product that they have to do. They're just ran differently. And so those are all combined into one in a different one. But we're going to focus on the full food as we go through today. So what is the purpose of product and equipment training? And we are starting on page 40 in your workbooks. Your RTS workbooks is where we're at. Oh, I see in the chat a great point. Thank you, Laura, for doing this. I'm going to back up a couple slides in your mind. But when we're talking about trainees and giving too much information, watch their body language. Because if they start glazing or, start looking around, dancing around, whatever, you're giving them too much information. So you want to keep them that edge of their seat exciting. Thank you for adding that, Laura. Appreciate it. All right. So you can see starting on page 40, we have what is the purpose? What's the objectives of both the chill module and the grill module? And it goes on over to page 41. What are the basic objectives of this class? What are we hoping you can do? And you can see those on page 41. I'm going to kind of put all of that in a nutshell. People are not going to come to you and gain mastery in making all of these products. That's an impossibility, especially in the chill area. That's not going to happen for most people. What you're hoping to do is get to proficiency. That's where you're really trying to get to, is can they make a servable product? Is it something that they could go back and teach? And then with time, they can continue to develop that skill and work on it and get to mastery, but they're not going to get there in 2 weeks. So the purpose isn't to get somebody to make POP material. They're not going to get there. Will they occasionally? Yes. That's not necessarily going to be the norm. And so we really want to focus on, do they have all the knowledge that they need to, that they can continue to practice and get support on when they get back to their restaurant? That's where the feedback comes in. What are they doing well? Where do they need some additional focus or practice? If I provide that, now their supervisor can continue to work with them during their store visits to make sure that they're practicing and they're doing what they need to do. They're going to work a combination of days, nights, weekends. They need to understand all facets of the business. They need to understand the systems and routines for cleaning, for stocking, for mopping, for doing dishes, taking out trash. They need to understand all those crew level positions if they are going to train it. So I once had a group of trainees came to a class. They were the franchisees. They were actually not going to be working in the restaurants. And they said, I don't need to learn how to do dishes. I'm going to pay somebody how to do that. And I said, well, how are you going to teach them how to use the chemicals appropriately and do that? Well, that's easy. They'll figure it out. Like, no, they won't. And so are you going to get somebody that comes in to be that level? I hope not. But they need to understand it. Now, does that mean they need to do all the dishes every day for 14 days? No, that's not what it means. But they need to understand, how do the chemicals work? How does the system work? What's the best way to handle this? How do you mop? Using our chemicals. As we all know, the floor cleaner, more is not better. It actually makes it more slick. It makes it worse. And so you've got to understand how to do that. What's your process for 14 foods for changing out mop heads? Do you have a mop head for the front of the house and one for the back of the house? How does that work? And so explaining those types of things may seem simple, but if I'm new to your organization, I don't know it. So I need to understand that. And so that's why we have them go through this, is so the crew stuff and actually stock and do that so they can understand, how do I date appropriately? How do I transfer items? How do I do these things? And sometimes it seems simple. It seems that they're free labor. Well, no, they're not free labor. You're using your labor in other ways. You're cross training somebody. The training buddy is the one that's helping them. Those are the things and how you're using that labor. And um, and so as they're doing all of this, you're also going to introduce them to some management function. You may help them count, or they may help you count for critical counts or waste. They may help you make sure all the labeling is correct for all the product dating, temperatures and why that's important. They may be responsible for the pride duties in that area when they're working in either the chill or the grill. And so those are things that they're starting to learn the management stuff, but you're not trying to pile everything into one class because that'll be too much for them. So these objectives on these 2 pages will really help you understand it. So I'm on page 41, and if you look at them, they've got to demonstrate proficiency. Well, again, in the treat area, that might be a little harder for some, but in the grill area, you hire somebody that's been working for McDonald's, or they've been working for Carl's Jr. or Hardee's or whatever it might be, they may pick up the grill area relatively quickly. Good. They just need to understand the importance, the whys, give them feedback. So that may go quick. And if you have somebody that gets it in a couple days and seems to be going well, and they struggled in the chill area, let's get them back over to the chill area and have them do some more work over there while still keeping with that grill training, what they need to do. That's fine. That's where you need to be adaptable. So again, we talked about that earlier. I need to be prepared. I need to be thorough. I also need to be adaptable because you're going to have people at different readiness levels that are going to be in this class. They have to apply food safety standards when they're in there. Are they washing their hands? Are they changing their gloves enough? Are they doing whatever it is that they need to do? On the temperatures, or if there's a temperature out, what is their reaction? What do they do? Do they fill out the chart that says, here's what I did? Do they make an adjustments? Do they come tell anybody? Do they ask questions? I want to make sure that they're serving food safely in my restaurant, because when they get back to their restaurant, it's on them to do that. And so I want to make sure they have it. That's why Serve Safe is so important and why we require it in our restaurants prior to attending product and equipment training. They need to know how to give feedback and do that. Did I hear something there? Did I hear somebody ask a question or start to ask a question? I was looking down. Nope. Okay. So the second to the last bullet point is formulate how to give feedback to their crew. So not only are you giving them feedback, you're also teaching them the basics of STAR and STAR AR. So when they get back to their restaurant, they can do that. So that's the big picture, the purpose of product and equipment training. Let's dive into it a little bit more. These are the things that we're going to talk about a little bit over the rest of today. The first thing I'd like to talk about is the schedule. So if everybody could grab their schedule, that would be great. And I'm going to walk through how do we use this really quickly. What does it look like as we are going through this? Okay. Everybody have one? Okay. All right. So at the top of ours, we will email these. Laura, would you be able to just email it to everybody in the group just to make sure they all have it? It should have been in the back of the little pocket in the back of your book, of your resource, your RTS workbook. I'm not sure why I couldn't say that, but I was struggling there. Laura said she's going to put the schedule in the chat so you can pick it up there. So at the top of ours, we have a place to put the trainee The RTS name, the address, the phone number of the restaurant, and the big square is for the dates, is what we have on ours. On the left, farting on the star far left side, there's the date, and then the next column is time. So I'm starting on the left. The date, those are auto-populate, except for when you see all those white pieces together. So on this one, you can see all those white cells together, and those are the equipment. And the reason we've broken those out is that way you can say, we're going to do the soft serve machine assembly on this date. You can give it a specific date instead of us having it down in the schedule where you have to figure out, well, do I do it on this day or am I going to do it on a different day? This allows you to put it in your rotation of when do you clean it, when do you set it up, when do you do all of those things. That's why those are there. When you put the date in that next cell there, it's going to auto-populate for everything down this line. Time, the first day, we're usually about 8 hours a day is about what our training is. Laura just said she's emailing it now. She's having trouble getting it into the chat. So the time, you get to set the time. You want a combination of days and nights. You want opens, you want closes. You can throw in a mid now and then just so they work both peak periods if you like, that's fine. But we want them to understand, how do you open a restaurant and how do you close a restaurant? It doesn't do them any good if all they do is work opens, because then they're not prepared for what a close looks like and what are they supposed to do. So you have to do that. You can decide how you're going to write this schedule, what it's going to look like. For us, we typically do a 9 to 5 on that first day is a good starting point, but you get to decide. You may want to do a 10 to 6. You may want to do an 8 to 4. Each of you are going to be different. You have to decide what day of the week you're going to start on. Some of our training restaurants like to start on Mondays. Some of our training restaurants prefer to start on Tuesdays because their Mondays are about inventory and doing these things. You get to decide what are the big things that you do in your restaurants and which days. We do not recommend starting training classes on Wednesdays or after because when they're brand new is when your peak periods start coming in, your peak days, and they're not ready for that. So that one extra day sure helps a lot. So we do not recommend starting on Wednesday through Sunday. Have we done that? Yes, in special circumstances. You just have to be prepared. They're not going to be ready for Friday and Saturday when you do that. The next column, you'll see there's a little tiny check mark and there's boxes that go all the way down. This serves two purposes. One, for you. I'm going to start with you. Why is it good for you? When you've done that, you've taught that, you can mark it off. You can put a little check mark to say, I've talked about this. We've went through this. That way, on your day off, the training buddy gets the schedule and goes, okay, they've talked about this. I see they skipped this from yesterday. I need to go back and find out why and ask the trainees. There's a reason why, and I need to understand that. And so now everybody's working off the same schedule. The second way that this should be used is you should give a copy of this to all of your trainees. As they feel comfortable, as they feel green, they should put a check mark next to that item. If they are still feeling yellow or red, they can leave that blank. And now when you do opening and closing ceremonies, you can say, okay, anything that we talked about yesterday or earlier today, is anybody feeling, what are you feeling green about? Anybody feeling yellow about something? And somebody may go, I'm struggling sealing a peanut butter parfait. I'm still feeling yellow about that. All right, tomorrow, let's make sure that we work with you to get that so we can get you to green. But the trainee should not mark it until they feel green. But that way, when they get back to their restaurants, they can't go, well, I wasn't comfortable. They really didn't talk about that. You can say, well, let's see your schedule. If they marked it off as I felt good about it and I told them, Well, then the trainee had no idea that they weren't comfortable with it, so they didn't talk to them about it anymore. So this is a check and balance, if you will, is what that's for. Now we get into the meat of the schedule. You've got a column for topics, objectives, and then resources. The topics are, here's the big topic that we're going to talk about. So if I go down into day one, we're going to do introductions. Well, what does that mean? That's where I go to the objectives. Well, it's the introduction of the students, the trainees, the training buddies, a district manager there if they're there, a director of training if they're, whoever's there, you're going to introduce them and you're going to get a chance to know them a little bit. So we had an RTS went through training earlier. They went through training last year, and they said one of the things they do is the first 10 minutes is just to talk. Why are they in training? Why did they pick Dairy Queen? What's their past history? Just to get to know each other a little bit and build that start building that relationship. And it calms people down. It makes them feel, okay, this person isn't going to be just an X's and Y's type of a person. They're a person. I can talk to them. And so it makes that feeling a little bit better. And so that's what those parts are about. Okay. The resources column is, where do I find that? It could be participant guide. It could be on DQ Learning Link. It may say Red Book, or for you, you could just say Red Book means Jolt or whatever it might be. You'll see that more in the service management financial basics section. But it just tells them, where can I find more information on that? Where will we be working? So that's how the schedule works. Okay. So I'm going to go over the first day just to kind of explain a little bit more how it works. And that email should be coming through anytime from Laura if you don't have the schedule. So you can see we have broken up day one into different sections. There's an orientation section, there's a food safety section, and then there's a small chill section. So on day one, we want them to get in there and get their hands dirty. We want them to start making products. That's what we want them to do. So in the orientation section, this is about setting expectations. This is about making sure that they understand the basics of food safety. So there's some food safety videos that they're going to watch. And it's about taking care of the restaurant, taking care of themselves. What do they need to do? So it's really, you start to see some of those things. We talk about a DOCA. What does that look like? We spend some time talking about SMART goals. We go over the training schedule. There's a code of conduct in the books that they have to review. So for anybody that's been to People, Pride, and Profit, there was a code of conduct. If anybody has worked with these books before, you've seen there's a code of conduct in them. But it's really about, what are your expectations? So this might be something that Pat, Dan, and Yulia want to look at, is what is your code of conduct? What is your expectations? Because we really need to set them up for, what do you expect? How do you want this class to run? Where do your employees go eat on break? Where do they park? What's your smoking policy? How do you handle cell phones? What happens if somebody's not in uniform, doesn't have slip resistant shoes, doesn't have a hat? What's the meal policy going to be? What if they're late? What are they supposed to do? What if they're sick? What if this person is going to be at a restaurant just down the road from you? Do you want them to try to steal your cake decorator? No. So those are things that you need to set those expectations. How do things run in your restaurant? And some of those expectations might be a little different in each restaurant. You might have some standard ones that are all 14 foods, and then you add 2 or 3 more that are specific to your restaurant's culture. So it's having those conversations, understanding what those are, making sure they know how to act during the training. That's a big part of this, is what are your expectations for them in training? Let them know that you're not going to be with them every step of the way. It's going to have training buddies with them. You may be off. Otherwise, they're going to be going, well, the trainer wasn't even here today. Again, they look at that as a negative because you didn't talk about it up front. So it's setting those expectations so there are limited surprises for them and for you. So it's understanding that type of thing. Food safety, again, we go through a lot of food safety stuff on day one to make sure they're ready. And then the chill area. It's just a quick overview that they do. So they do a little bit on DQ Learning Link, and then it's go to the back. And you basically do a quick baseball and curl. You're not going to go through the complete details of everything. You're going to give them the foundations. And you're going to let them try to make a couple of them. You're going to look for those small wins so they're excited about coming back tomorrow. You're going to have some people that step in and they're going to think, well, this looks easy because your employees are just standing up the machine, making product after product. They're talking, they're doing all this, and they're going, it can't be that difficult. And then they get up there and make their first cone and realize this is a lot more difficult than I ever thought it was going to be. I want to make sure that there's a small win, get them to come back, get them a taste of it, and take a picture of their first cone. And then you can show them at the end of the class, this is how much you progressed in that short period of time. Think how much better you're going to be after a month of continually practicing and making cones. That's what you're trying to do on that day one. What questions do you have about how the schedule works through that day one? None? Okay. You can start looking through the schedule as you go through. Each day is separated. It has exactly what you're doing. It has the positions down that you're doing. So it's all position-based training. You get into grill on day 8. Again, the equipment is separated. You can have that stuff in there. It's got train the trainers built in. It's got all of that built in. Now, I would like you to go to day 6.
Can I just add something, Russell, about the
Sure.
making sure that at the top, the equipment for each of those sections, they're just make sure that they're listed at the top, because that way you can add them in whenever you need to do that particular equipment process.
Correct. I think I said that earlier, but I'm not. If I didn't, sorry. Thank you for catching it if I didn't, Laura.
Just want to make sure, because it used to be inside of the schedule, but we've moved it at the top.
Okay. So on day 6, you can see that's when they take the treat knowledge exam. Okay, the treat knowledge exam, and they'll take treat number 2. And then on day 13, they take the grill knowledge exam. Okay. You might be saying, well, why don't they take it on the last day? Well, what if they fail? So we have a built-in day to do that. Laura's going to talk about that a little more as we go through it. Now, what I just talked about, especially on that day 1, is all in the participant guide. You start looking through that. There's a whole orientation and food safety section. You'll see there's a code of conduct in there. There's a training plan, a history. There's a few expectations in there. There's a place for you to get phone numbers for them. Where are they staying? If they're staying at a hotel, find out where they're staying. Because if somebody is a really deep sleeper and they don't show up and they're not answering their phone, you can call the hotel that they're staying at and maybe do a wellness check to make sure somebody is okay. Hopefully that doesn't happen. It has at a training restaurant of ours in the past, so that's always a good idea. Have a phone, give them your phone number, the restaurant's phone number, so in case they need to, they can text you, they can call you, they can whatever they need to do. So that's part of that day one that's in here. But this book right here is vital. It keeps them on track. It keeps you on track. You can verify where they're at. You can look at it and say, okay, let me see everybody's book. Let's look through your book and find out, are they taking notes? Are they understanding it? What's happening here? Okay. So this is a good tool. Pat, I think I've given you the information on where to order this from Mimeo. So it's the same books that we use in our certified training restaurants. You all just have a separate site. And then the leader's guide, again, just has the answers in it. That's it. Recommend that you teach. If you need to teach out of a book, teach out of the participant guide. Just write the answers in, because the page numbers don't match in the leader's guide to the participant guide, because there's all the answers in the leader's guide. So it's best if you teach out of this if you need to. Now you've got DQ Learning Link. You're all familiar with that. You had said earlier, this is the study materials, the treat number 2 and the grill number 5. That's what they should register for. So you go to training, curriculum. On the right-hand side in the categories, look for manager certification, product and equipment, and then US, Canada, and you'll click on that. And that will get you the materials. If anybody is struggling with DQ Learning Link, I'd be happy to help walk through. Now, the last thing that I want to spend a little bit of time talking about is day one. Day one is typically the most difficult day for our RTSs, because it is a giant 8-hour orientation. And for most of you, your orientations last about an hour to an hour and a half with an employee. So they are not near that long, that detailed, that intense. There's a reason that we do it this way. Is again, we want to set expectations. We want to make sure that they have a good foundation to grow and learn from. And so that's what we want to do. In your books on the bottom of page 42, you can see a basic here is what we're trying to accomplish of the training schedule. This is something that Pat, Yulia, and Dan, you really need to think about, is what is day one going to look like in our training restaurants? Because some of your orientation type stuff may happen with the trainees prior to them going. And so you may be able to eliminate some of these items from the RTSs or the district trainers, as you all call them. You may be able to eliminate some of that. And so they may actually be able to get into some of day 2 items on the schedule, which is completely fine. Because there's going to be days when you're ahead because it was slower. There's going to be days that you're behind because something happened and you weren't be able to get into anything. So that's fine. But you all really need to look at this and say, what do we want our district trainers to handle, and what don't we want them to handle, and really develop that. So a code of conduct, you may not need to do that in store. That may be part of
Uh-oh, Russell.
He froze.
Yeah, he did freeze. Okay, so I'm just gonna, can you guys see me and hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so hopefully Russell will jump off and then jump back on. I do not have the PowerPoint, so we'll just kind of move along there. He was finishing up about day one, just making sure that you're setting those expectations, and it is the hardest day just because it is a long day. So what questions do you have about day one before we move on? And we're just going to use your book at the moment. Any questions on day one?
I have a question.
Sure.
So on this schedule, y'all start off with chill. Is it recommended you start on chill? Because I typically start in the grill area, then move to chill.
And the reason we start in the chill area first is because it gives us a longer time frame. Plus, it's a harder skill to manage, right, or to learn for most people. So the days are a little bit longer. What happens is if you get somebody, what we find is that if somebody is struggling in the chill area, that if they go to the grill area and let's say they get it down to a science, you know, the grill area, it's easy for them. Maybe they have McDonald's experience or Wendy's experience or Burger King experience. If they have that, then while you're rotating your people to work in the grill area, you might be able to move somebody back into the chill area to practice a little bit more. So that's why we do the chill first, is so it gives them those extra back end days to be able to practice some more if needed. And then we always start with blizzards, and we don't do form treats until the very end. So we do all of the drinks, like all the shakes, misties, blizzards, we get all that so then they can get the practice of the forms before they actually have to do the forms for the customer. Does that answer your question? You're welcome, Amy. Okay. Hi, Shanna.
Yeah. Oh, there's my wife. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. You froze, so I just
Well, it's beautiful. There's no wind and the sun is shining and our internet just went out. So
yeah.
that never
is-
happens here.
No,
So I'm
we
on my
had
phone.
Russell and I had a conversation about that before you all
Yeah.
started. So we're like, he's like, it's not, nothing's gonna happen. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's what we always say. And then something crazy happens. Any other questions about day one? Or this, you know, just the general schedule overall? Okay, so if you'll wait 1 second, we're going to look at page, I believe it's page 43. Does that have the knowledge exam and guidelines? I don't know if it does or not.
Yes, that's where it's at. It does
Okay.
not have the picture of it. No.
Okay, so one
All
moment,
right.
please.
Just a second. My internet just came back on.
Okay, I was going to go get the document.
I'm
So
going to join back in. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the exams. So Russell said on the schedule, what we purposely did is we make sure that on the day, we have the day before. So on day 6, we have study time, and we also have them to be able to take the test in case of the fact that they don't pass. So if they don't pass, then that gives them the opportunity, because remember, one of the things about the exams is this. They have to take the practice exam first, and they can take that as many times as they need to pass. And then when they go to take the product and equipment actual exam for chill, they have to pass it. They only have 2 chances to pass. And so what we recommend is, let's say on day 6, they don't pass the first time, then I would recommend that they wait, study, and then take it on the next time. And then with the chill, this is another reason, Amy, that is good, is if for some reason that, you know, they don't pass it, then you have that opportunity of you can move them out, or we can, you know, you can work with them in a different way. But usually if they don't pass it the first time, it gives them the opportunity. It's built into the schedule so they can go home and study, and then they can take it the second time the next day. So that way it gives them a little overnight to calm, because a lot of people get upset. But if things are going well and you're doing what, you know, doing your training and they're working hard at it, they have to put the effort in too. They should be good on passing the exam. But that's the other purpose of the schedule part of why we do that. We do it the day before for that. So as you can see on the Russell, thank you so much for thank your internet for coming back. As you can see, we did a little bit of change. So if you have been doing any of the testing or familiar with our previous exams, we did a little bit of change to what it looks like now. Everything is just a treat exam. So it's a number 2, whether if you have any, do you have stores? Russell said at the beginning, you have a few stores that are treat. Are they treat with like pretzels, treat with hot dogs, that kind of a thing?
I don't know if there's any hot dogs or not. There's only 1 or 2, and
Okay.
they're the original walk up to the window style. So I'd have
Okay.
to validate what
Okay.
they have.
I just wanted to make sure so that we're on the same page. So we'll talk first. I'll talk about the general, just the grill and chill portion. So it's the treat, which is, you'll see there the number 2. What we did, a couple of things that we did is, one thing is we kept this passing score as 90. We increased the time limit, so how much time they have per question. And so it was lower than everything else. So we increased that. And then we also reduced the number of questions. This was done in March of this year. So that's new. A lot of people don't realize that we did that. So it went from 80 questions to 70 questions. And the reason we did that is we were trying to even out the number, so that if I was taking for our system as a whole, and for the Texas Country Food as well, we were trying to make sure that everybody kind of had the same, not exact amount of questions, but close to the same number of questions. So we were trying to be more fair across the board. So when we looked at, so we changed that, the timing on that. So it went from, the treat went from 80 questions to 70. So it's a few less questions. There are cake questions on that treat exam. So there's only 5 total in the whole bank. So they may get one. So make sure you are talking about your cakes. And then the next part would be the number 5 test. You can see the numbers are on the left-hand side. The grill test, again, 90. The minutes is 120 because they have 2 minutes and 40 seconds per question. And then it's 50 questions. And again, we reduced that. It was 60 and we reduced it down to 50. So if they're taking the 2 of them, it gives them about 120 questions total. So, but they don't take it together. And that's the whole point, is you don't want them taking them together. You want them to separate them out, even if they're doing it just in general. So that's why we also have the testing and the schedule tested out that way. So that's your exams, and that's what we've done with them. We'll talk more about the service and shift lead and the management financial basics in the next class, but that gives you an idea. On a side note, if for some reason you all have your treat store has a treat and they serve OJ products, then they would take the number 2 and the number 3 exam. If they had pretzels and hot dogs, they would take 2, 3, and 4. So what we did is we narrowed down our specific test to whatever food product you have or whatever products you have. So it makes it a little less confusing, if you will. So how that works is we also did a little bit of change to make it easier for people when they go to register in the curricula. They're going to register for, and this is the picture at the bottom of that particular PowerPoint, bottom left-hand side. That is it's going to register for the number 2. It's product and equipment certification, number 2 treat, number 2 grill, and skills assessment. So now it's all in one package, and people don't have to go find the treat, the exams, and the skills assessment separate. It's all together in one. So when I click on that and enroll myself, what's going to show up is on the right-hand side. When I go in and click on the treat exam, it will then break it down into, I need to say that, yes, I understand I'm taking this and I only get 2 chances. The practice exam is there, and then the actual treat exam. And the same thing happens for the grill. When that's done, I click on that, and it shows up with the agreement, the practice exam, and the regular exam. And then the last part is when they're ready for their skills assessment, they click on that, and then it will let them enroll in that. So we made it a little bit simpler this year, trying to narrow it down so people were not as confused. So it's all in one package, which should make it a little bit easier. So that's our piece with the product and with the exams. If you have questions, I'm going to throw myself out there, or you have something where you're not sure on the question, on the exams, any test questions that you're not sure about, we try to keep it regulated so that, except for, we try to make sure that Canada and US are similar so that it's standard between the 2. And then also, if you have any questions, if you can email me, because I'm one of the people that actually manages this whole process. The schedule, the books, anything to do with product and equipment, that's kind of my baby. That one of the things that I take care of for our team is making sure all that stuff works. So if you find mistakes on in the books, or you find, you know, whatever, just let me know. If there's a question on the exam, like I thought the answer to this question is this and they got it wrong, let us know and we can verify the information. What we normally do, so you all understand, is we actually verify systems and routines for the test to make sure that they're correct and that we're using the right processes. Right now, so you know, we're in the middle between clamshell and Nico and holding times for those, so they have both. So the questions will have both. So if they have a regular, if they have a Nico in the store and the holding time is 20 minutes, it will say 20 minutes or 10 minutes for clamshell. So it'll say, you know, 20 minutes for Nico or 10 minutes for clamshell. So it has those a little bit of opportunities while we're trying to get the system as a whole onto one cooking platform for the grill. But in general, we do verify to make sure that whatever is in the standard. So your best resource is your product rotation charts. They are in the back of the red book, but they're also on the hub. So if you do not print those out or go look regularly for those on the hub, product, they're called product. If you type in product rotation in the search bar of the hub, it'll pull it up and it'll say, you know, Q2 chill, Q3, you know, grill, and it'll tell the year. Make sure you have the most current, because that's where we're going to get our data for the testing, for time dates, you know, shelf lives, all of that. So if you're not pulling those on a regular basis, I would highly recommend that you do that and make sure your team is aware of those. The ones in the back of the red book are pretty up to date, but they have to print them ahead of time. So sometimes there might be a little bit of a change between, but that's where most of the information comes from. What questions might you have around the exams, the guidelines, how often, how to get to it?
On the test, will you guys ever, like if someone gets a question wrong, provide the correct answer? Because that's always asked.
So we don't, for the sake of the questions, for the integrity of the questions. And that's part of the reason why we narrowed down to what we have now. And we got rid of the number one soft serve exam, as people were taking advantage of the system. And so it's an integrity part. So if there's something really major, you could call me or Russell and we can kind of give you an idea of what area it is. If there's a lot within an area, like they don't know their day dots, we can give you that kind of information. But as a whole, they should know most of their standards, and mostly it's the chill area, and then it's equipment. And the grill area, I can tell you, so in the chill area, it's day dotting, shelf lives of the candies is a lot of it. And then in the grill area, a lot of times it's the equipment part. So hoods, fryers, you know, how to clean. So we'll have some of those questions. And that's where the majority that I see, and Russell could probably agree with me on that, that's the majority of where we see is people think they know. I call that heritage knowledge. They think they know because they've been in the system for a long time and they didn't actually go back and redo their studies materials to know what the current standard is, because that's what the Learning Link does, is the current standard. And so they don't know that, and they think it's X because that's what someone told them 3 years ago. So that's usually what we see. I'll give you a good example for that, Amy. I had a franchisee that called me and they were like, my person's been here for 15 years and they can't get the gravy question correct. And I said, well, how much gravy goes in the container? And they told me like 3.5 ounces. And I'm like, no, that's not the current standard. So they just kept getting the same question wrong because they thought that's what it was. And I'm like, well, obviously they didn't do their study materials, because that has the current standards. So that's why I said your product rotation charts are really great for that. And you could print one out for them and have them just make sure they're studying those. Good question. What else and that's where the practice exam, there is a bank. That's the other thing. It asks 70 questions. There's a bank of 125, I think, right now, questions. So they may not get the same questions the second time around. And the practice exam uses the same bank, but you know, they could get the same question in the practice exam 3 times and get a different question on the exam. So there are banks for each one of those sections. Usually not quite double, but try to get as close to double as possible. What other questions do you have about exams, the skills assessments? Okay, so we're going to look at the skills assessment next. So the skills assessment is exactly, and you have this in your guide as well. We sent that with your information. The skills assessment, this also has been updated. Also, we missed this one the other day. We updated it in January of this year. And what it does is now has the number one soft serve is no longer on that form. So if you do not have the latest form, we will be sending it to you after this call to make sure you have the most current skills assessment. What that does is it actually tells you, this is your assessment, if you will. So you should have been observing and coaching all along. And then now that it's time to do the assessment. And this is also another opportunity where we recommend that you continue to watch someone as they're working in the chill area or the grill area. I would not wait to do the skills assessment at the end. So if you're teaching the chill section first, complete the chill section, put the feedback there, save that, and then go back in and then do the grill area when you're done with the grill area. So make sure because there are two different tabs at the bottom. So now the tabbing just has treat, OJ, number 4, which is other food, and then it's got the grill section. So you can hide the ones you don't need, but I would recommend that you fill in all your things for the treat area and then fill all the things in for the grill area. And so each of those sections has a information for what needs to be done. So there's some verbal things that they have to complete and tell you how the process is. And then there's also actual product that they have to do. And there's a guideline. Russell, do you happen to have a skills assessment up? I thought I saw you. Yes. Thank you, sir. So this is the front page of the skills assessment. You can see this is the latest one. And then what it does is you have to make sure, one of the things to make sure of is that you're marking with an X. So when we get in, let's just look at the treat one. If you want to go to that tab, Russell. Thank you. And at the top, to get those to work, you have to put the X's in there. If you put a 1 or you put something else in there, it's not going to calculate. And this is where a new trainer, we usually find that they are not putting an X in there. So you have to put an X to make it. If they did not do it, leave it blank and it won't count it. So it automatically scores it for you. This tells you exactly what they need to do. Russell, you're doing a great job. Thank you so much for demonstrating that. It helps them to understand how to use the form. So if you'll scroll down just a little bit, there is a space to do some feedback right there. We will look for that. And it's about the feedback about the things that were that 1 through 6. So you're going to put in, you're going to put in more specific. Remember, you're going to use your star and your star AR here. So if there's things that they need to, they did really well, please be very, stop, Russell. He's being mean to me today, y'all. So you're going to put in star or star AR or both there for the first 6 items. And then the second part is actually the product assessment. This is where it becomes important. It gives you the weight and how to read the points. So what the points are, it tells you like if it's within a quarter of an ounce or a half ounce or 1 ounce, or if it's not, if it's over 1 ounce either direction, then they don't get any points. It tells you what it should look like from a procedure perspective. Ingredients, 1 point awarded for using all the correct ingredients. And then the procedure would be that it looks like the picture. Packaging, if they package it correctly, meaning including spoons and cones and all of that. The appearance looks like the POP is servable, but needs a little more detail. And then appearance would be poor as if it's not servable. So if it's a cone and it looks squatty and over the drip ring and doesn't have the ball and curl shape, then they would get only 1 point for that. And then there gives some specific on shake and sundae and banana split and the brownie. and the Oreo confection. So there's some very specific parts to that one. So you want to make sure of how to use those. So that gives you specifics on each one of the products. So if you'll just show the bottom part where the scoring is, Russell, that would be great. So like on a chocolate shake, there is no goal weight or actual weight. So those have been blocked out. So you can't put any numbers in. You're going to put in the actual weight of like a small cone, a small sundae, a peanut butter parfait. So if they actually got a 4 and 7.5, then it will mark that it's within weight. If it wasn't, you would put in the weight there at that point. So you're going to have to figure the difference between that. So 1/4 of an ounce would be a 4. So as long as it's within a 1/4 of an ounce, it would be a 4. So you're going to put that in, and then you're going to do your appearance as well as your the packaging and the procedure that they're going to use and the ingredients. So if they missed an ingredients, you would only give them, they wouldn't get all the points. And what that does is it's very nice for you because at the bottom, it will add it all up for you. And between the sections, the demonstration section and the product assessment, it will give you a complete score for that. And that score actually carries over to the front summary page. So, and it will fill that, you would click that and it will fill the score in for you. And Russell did not do a very good job today. He only got 22% on his chill. Have you all used this before? Has anyone used this before? Okay. So was there any, I'm sorry, I kind of went into detail for you. Is there any, have you seen this new form? I guess is even a better question for yourself. Yes? Okay. All right. So you're going to use 2 and 5. You just have to make sure that you're following. And this is where, from the beginning of the conversation we had today, when you were all telling Russell about feedback, this is where you're going to start using your STAR and STAR AR feedback is in there and on the summary page. So you want to make sure that you're taking good notes, that you can give them good information. You should also go over this with them so that they are not surprised by the information. Okay, so Kelly, we will be sending that out when we give you the update from the picture from this particular meeting. We'll include both of those. You have the skills, the you have the schedule, so we'll go ahead and attach the new form to that as well. Okay?
Thank you.
Sure. So the important part is on the bottom of page 43, it is really important and very helpful for us is if you could please submit the form with the file name as such. So whatever the store number is, and then the store, the city of that, and then the state or province. So like if it's Lexington, if it's 46255, Lexington, KY for Kentucky, put a dash. It'd be Russell space Brown, and then just put PE skills assessment. So the example is there. So if you could please send that to us that way. The reason being is we have this gigantic, forever long lasting file in Minnesota that has been kept for long before I got here, and I've been here 9 years. And so it goes into a yearly file so that if once it's completed and it's uploaded to the learning link, the skills assessment, it goes into this master file. So that way we have records of the skills assessments for the people. And believe me, Russell and I could tell you numerous times we've had to go look, like for some reason it's not marked somewhere that they had that, and we go back to look. It makes it easier if we can put in like store number or city or whatever to actually search for it throughout the files that we have. So that most people will say, I don't remember when I took it, I just know I took it. So then we might have to go through, we search through the database, and it's easier if we have that set up that exact way so we can find those a little bit more quickly. So that would be really helpful. They should be sent in that format. Questions on that? On the skills assessment? Any struggles that you're having with the skills assessment? challenge will be feedback this time around. Will be new, how you're giving feedback on those forms. Might be a little more challenging now that we've learned our STAR and STAR AR. Again, this is where you're writing it down, so you're probably going to have to give them if they didn't do it well, what the alternative action and result would be. So you would want to give them that example. Okay, so again, if you have any questions, concerns about anything to do with product and equipment, let us know. I am one of the key for product and equipment. Russell gets to pick one of the other, has one of the other ones, but I have the product and equipment part. So if you have anything or you have questions, let me know. Or you find anything. If there's little errors that you see, spelling errors or anything else in the materials, let me know that. If the picture doesn't look the same, let me know that. We do try orientations a little off from the page numbering between the leader's guide and the participant's guide, only because you have a lot more to say than what the participants have. But once you get into the chill and the grill area, those page numbers all match up. So what's in the leader's guide, those pages match up to what's in the participant's guide. So it's just because at the beginning, you have a lot more to say on that orientation day. So those should match up pretty well. What questions do you have? Okay. Russell, are you going to take the barriers or do you want me to go ahead for that? I don't know how your internet's working. Okay.
I got it.
Okay.
It's working right now.
Okay.
That's a good thing.
If you go like this.
Is that what I did last
know.
time?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll know.
Nice. Nice. So one thing that I would probably say for your organization is figure out a way to calibrate how you're scoring, how you're grading stuff, how you're doing. If a product is off, what do I do? So I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to go back. Is everybody grading this the same way? Is everybody going to come up with the same points for this? Because if I look at this, I'm like, well, man, that form is great on the left. And when they did the toppings and the whip topping, that's not so good. So are you all scoring that product the exact same way? And so it might be something where you have a meeting, you get together and you just practice scoring. So if you look at this product, I mean, what do you think you might do? Is it the weight was 6.5 ounces or, but that's not where you're supposed to weigh it, is it? You actually weigh it from the form side. So it's 5. So this would get 4 points for the weight. And then you start looking at, well, is the procedure correct? Is this how we make a strawberry sundae? What's wrong?
Didn't protect the curl. There's strawberries on the curl.
Correct.
And the stars of whipped cream is incorrect.
Correct. How many whipped topping stars?
10.
10. It is 10. Now, if you got 9 or 11, I mean, I'm not going to make a big deal out of that, right? Because it looks correct going around it. And so that's the key. So the finished weight of this is correct, but the procedure is not correct. The ingredients are correct. The packaging is correct. Would you serve this? Yes or no? That's where the calibration comes in. So I'm going to ask everybody right now, do not look in the chat as you're typing it. Don't look and see what everybody else is typing, but I want you to give this a 3, a 2, or a 1. But just put in yours. Don't look at anybody else's answer. Put in a 3, 2, or 1. And then let's calibrate right now.
On what? On which part?
On the sundae. The finished sundae is what we're looking at. So start typing in the chat. And you can see 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1. So calibration is important because as one of you as a trainer marks it as a 1, but in a different restaurant, it's marked as a 2. How's that going to get consistency for all of your restaurants? And it won't, right? We struggle with the exact same thing in our certified training restaurants. If we had this, we would have the same thing. Some people would probably say, yes, that's servable because the weight's fine, the ingredients are fine, it's not going to hurt in it. Other people are saying, no way, I'm not going to serve that. That destroyed the brand. That's the curl. We can't serve that. And so, which is right? Food cost standpoint, heck yes, I'm serving this. But from a brand standard standpoint, I can't serve that. And so for me, that would be a 1. That would be a don't serve. This is something for you all to really look at and say, okay, as a company, what are our standards? What are we going to allow when we're grading these? Okay. So that's what I would say for calibration is let's calibrate as a team. When you get back and you're talking through this, let's do those. Pat, did you say something? No, I'm hearing things then. All right. So,
Well,
yeah, I know it. Just like I heard that voice earlier told me that Laura was awesome. I don't know what that voice was about.
and then you put not in.
I don't know who did that. My
It must
dad's
be
here.
your
My dad's
there.
here. Yeah, he
Okay.
did it. All right.
Okay.
All right. So let's talk about the barriers. And we've done this a couple different times already. Here's the question. What are the obstacles that you've encountered while completing your assignments between webinars? And that's actually in our notes. I did not make that up. It's in my notes. What has made it difficult to complete your assignments on time? This would be a sharing moment.
The whirlwind, the
I tell you.
day-to-day job is what gets in the way.
It does. It
We don't
does.
plan and make this a big rock because
Okay.
this is important.
Okay. I have Teresa is next.
So for me, it was definitely just me not prioritizing.
Okay.
The last 3 that we did, I did it early. I did it within the day or 2. And then this last time on this last video, I waited and waited because I was like, I'll do it tomorrow because I would just get so busy. And I was like, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. And I just kept pushing it off and kept pushing it off. And I think I finally got it done on Monday.
Okay. I know at least one of you is helping with an opening right now. And so that's part of that whirlwind, right? So it's completing the assignments is not just about doing the assignments and applying what you've learned. That's part of the assignment. The other part of the assignment is keeping yourself organized. How do I prepare for these whirlwinds? How do I make sure that I'm planning my day so I can get things done when I need to? Because here's a different question I'm going to have for you. You have a trainee that's in your restaurant, a manager from another location, and they are not doing their homework. So they don't watch the videos that you assign them to do from yesterday to today. And that happens multiple times. How is that going to impact you?
It's gonna put me behind.
Okay. How would it put you behind?
Because we only have 4 weeks to train. So if they're not doing their work on time, it's prolonging it to another day. Therefore, we possibly cannot get done with everything in that 4-week time.
Okay. I would agree with that. It puts everything behind. Anybody else? How would it have a negative impact on you?
Well, honestly, I think in reality, it should have no negative impact on the training store general manager. It's all on the participants.
Okay.
At the end of the
Yes.
day, it's they have to take personal responsibility in completing their assignments and making sure they're done. The GM's just following the schedule. What probably should happen, there's more an impact potentially to the company if we have to extend training because somebody's not completing their assignments on
Yep.
time. And there's a cost if we're going to exit them. So there are several factors.
There it is. And I agree with what you said, Dan, and I'm going to add something to it. I believe it does impact the GM, the district trainer, because now I may feel like, well, they didn't do this, so I'm going to have to do the heavy lifting and teach them. Right. And so that may feel like they have a burden because they're trying to help the company. They don't want this to look bad on them. And so some people take it upon themselves to try to deliver on that learning and get that person caught up to speed. Do you ever have more than one trainee at a time in a restaurant? I think, Pat, you're saying yes. Okay.
Yeah, they're saying yes.
Okay. So how would that impact the other trainees if they're doing their homework and somebody's not?
Might hold
Right.
the other one.
It's going to hold the other back, or the other person's going to get frustrated because they're thinking, well, then why am I doing this? Why am I putting forth all this effort? So I'm asking you questions that you already know the answer to. So that's the other reason why we're talking about assignments and why we say a barrier. They're going to have barriers that get in their way. They all have personal lives, things they're trying to deal with. They're away from home. They're trying to figure things out. Whatever it might be, they're going to have excuses. And it's how do I handle those? What are those barriers? And how do I make it as easy as possible? So those are things that you're going to have to really think about. As a company, what's our procedure if that happens? You know, or so let's say that I have a trainee that they decide they are not going to bring a computer to class. And they said, I'll just use the computer at the hotel to do my homework. And the hotel computer doesn't work. What happens then? That's a real story. That's actually happened to us. So those are things that we have to be thinking about. And so that's that other reason why we're doing these homeworks. Yes, it helps you utilize and implement some of the information that we talk about during there. Just as importantly, it's an understanding of why it's important for your trainees to stay up to speed, because it'll have a negative impact on y'all if it doesn't. All right, let's get past the barriers. Let's do a review. What is the overall purpose of product and equipment training? Afton, are you going to answer? Is that why you're coming off mute?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. For them to be proficient in the areas and equipment.
Okay. So you want them to be proficient with the equipment and working in the areas. What else do we want to have happen? Somebody else provide something else we want them to be able to do.
The MIT needs to be able to teach it back.
They need to be able to train. So when they leave, they need to be proficient, and they also need to have the ability to train using Adoka, using DQ Learning Link. So when they get back to their restaurants, they can implement appropriate and correct training. That helps with consistency across your restaurants and the entire system. And so that's the important piece that we do. You know, you're also wanting to introduce them to a positive culture. How do I operate a restaurant? How do I operate a 14 Foods restaurant? You want to expose them to that and let them feel what are the expectations of a 14 Foods manager. So all of that goes into the training. That's not going to be in any books. A lot of that you can't write in a book. It's a feel. It's, are they feeling what it should be like in a restaurant? Is it operating well? Are the employees happy? Are they, or is it staffed well on every shift? Is things handled well? And from a customer standpoint, from an employee standpoint, is all that stuff handled well? Those are things that we want them to feel and see, not just learn about. And so that's a key point of that. What are the passing scores of our knowledge exams?
90.
It is a 90%. Okay. How many times are they allowed to fail it?
Twice.
What happens if they fail it twice?
The waiting period is 6 months after the second.
6 months. So that's decision time for 14 Foods. Do I wait 6 months or do I have them repeat training? Because you could have them repeat all of training. That's a decision you all would have to make. Is that a good investment or not? That will not be up to the district trainers to make. Your input might be requested, but that'll probably be a question above our pay grade, right? So somebody else will get to decide that. How long do I have to wait? If they fail at one time, how long do I have to wait before they can take it again?
24 hours.
24 hours. So should I take the exams in the afternoon?
No.
No, we shouldn't, right? You could get by with that on the treat exam, not on the grill exam, because that means they have to stay till late the last day and try to retake it. Here's the thing, you're gonna have a pretty good idea of people's knowledge and skills through opening and closing ceremonies, through observations, through discussions, through questions. If you feel somebody is struggling, you need to reach out to somebody. I'm going to assume it should be the director of training that supports you, should be your first phone call. And then they will say, okay, here's what we need to do. Maybe the person just needs some extra help. We've had students that have been dyslexic and they're really struggling learning, but they didn't share that information with us. Well, we just needed to slow down. We needed to give them information in a different manner. We needed to help them read the questions because they were struggling reading the questions in the time frame. And so we had to make some adjustments. So they had the information, but dyslexia was in their way from passing. And so those are types of things that we had to adjust a little bit on, and that's fine. But if you wait until somebody fails to tell somebody, it's too late. We need to tell that up front. And we ask our trainers to do the same thing in advance. We want them to have that information. What's the passing score of the product and equipment skills assessment?
You might have to give them that. I forgot to tell them that.
Oh, okay. It's also 90%. So it's pretty easy. Everything's 90%, right? Here's the difference. The knowledge exams are 90% each. So I need to get a 90% on the treat and a 90% on the grill exam. For the skills assessment, if you look at that form, it is a combined 90%. So somebody could get an 88% on the treat tab and they get a 98% on the grill tab, their total score would be above 90% and they would pass. So it is a combined score for the skills assessment. Okay. If somebody fails a skills assessment, there is no retake. At that point, it's a 6-month waiting period. So again, this is something you should be aware of before they fail. This is something you're going to know early on that they are struggling making the treat products, or they are struggling making the grill product. You're going to know that early on just through observations. Reach out and talk to somebody about that. Don't hold that information back, because at that point there is something you can do about it. Just like if somebody is consistently late, you don't need to deal with that. What are you going to do? You're going to reach out to somebody and say, listen, Russell is consistently late coming in and coming back from breaks. Don't be a martyr and take on that burden the entire class. Pick up the phone and call somebody. Send somebody a text and say, I'm really struggling with Russell. I need some help. And let somebody else take care of it so you can focus on the training side of it. But it's your expectation. They need to be holding that. Because if they're doing that in training, what are they going to do when they get to their restaurant? That's not the manager you want for 14 Foods. So you have a chance to correct that at this point. Let's see. When I'm completing I
was going to add something. So, Amy, one of the questions you asked was about the why we do chill first, and that's one of the reasons we do chill first as well, is because if a person gets into the chill and they can't you're not going to be able to pass the skills assessment part of chill for now, then you just stop and then move on to something else, because if they're not going to be able to complete the process, that's why one of the other reasons we do that. And we have seen that happen where they probably could do the grill, but the chill part they couldn't get.
Yep.
So that's another reason why we do it first.
Yeah, if you see they're really struggling with the peanut butter parfait,
banana split,
and banana split, or the cupfection, those are usually the products we see people struggle with. Say, I'd like you to practice. And that doesn't mean practice on your time. That means practice on their time, is what that means. That means coming in on their time off and maybe practicing a little bit. So that's fine. It can't take away from training. It's their responsibility, not yours. That doesn't mean you need to be there with them. They need to take responsibility for their own learning. When do I take the weight of the banana split and the strawberry sundae? When I'm doing a skills assessment.
The base only.
The base
Or the
only,
toppings.
correct. The form only. Yep. Whatever you want to call it, Afton, I understood. The base only, the form only, that's when you do that. Why do we do that? Just to make things difficult? Why do we do that?
I would think because everything else has measuring tools that you use for the toppings.
Okay. I would say yes to that, except for the banana. You just cut it, right? It's supposed to be 4 inches. Are you going to cut it exactly 4 inches every time? Probably not, because it's a curved shape. So I don't think we have a loose piece of string or something around and we're doing that. We're just chopping the ends off and going, right? Some of the bananas might be have a little more texture to them. They might be a little heavier. The scoop of strawberries you do, what size is that ladle? What size is the ladle that you use for strawberries? It's a 1 ounce. And how many strawberries? What's the strawberry weight on a banana split?
3/4 of an ounce.
3/4 of an ounce. So how are you going to get exactly 3/4 of an ounce each time? And is one time going to have more juice than strawberries and the next one has more strawberries and juice? Those are going to weigh different. So that's why we do that. If somebody ever asks you, same thing holds true for the pineapple, the chocolate syrup. That's a 1 ounce pump. What's the chances I'm going to get exactly 3/4 of an ounce of chocolate in it? What's the chances I'm going to get 4 whipped topping stars that weigh 0.25 ounces each? That's pretty slim. And so that's why we do those types of things. All right. Now, when we think about today's topics, what items are you feeling green about? How many of you are confident, by show of hands, how many are confident showing somebody how to register for the product and equipment study materials? Okay, well, I think all of the district trainers rose their hand. That's what I'm really focused on. How many of you are comfortable with what is the agreement part of the exams? That somebody has to say, I know that I have to do this to pass. I see most of them. What are some of the things they have to do? What are we looking for? How many times can they take it?
Twice.
Twice. Okay. Are they going to have to take a practice exam?
Yes.
How many times can they take that?
As many as they need.
Yes, Dan, you were right. Until they pass. Right? So they need to understand that. So what happens occasionally is people just click through all of that. And then they say, I didn't know that. Make sure they take time to read those things because it happens it's too frequently. It happens. I didn't know that. It's like, well, I'm sorry you agreed to that. So how many of you are feeling green about administering skills assessments? Most of you have done at least helped with those in the past. So good. So I think, again, go back to making sure that you are all calibrated and you're looking at things. That's going to be a time process. So that might be something as your directors of training and come through your restaurants, they may help calibrate. So they are the calibration. I'm not sure how you all will handle that, but that's something that you should think about as a group. How are we going to do that? Anything from today's topic that you're feeling yellow or red about? Anything from past topics, past calls that you're feeling yellow or red about that you would like to discuss here? Dan just raised his hand really quick.
So, I was raising my hand to get the first aid kit.
Yeah, it's that bad that you have to have a first aid kit?
Yes.
It's really red then. So everybody's feeling pretty good. So that's great. All right. So call. We have 2 weeks between our calls. So the next call will be on Wednesday, the 28th. So continue to look at your green, yellow, red. If there's anything that is hanging out there that yellow or red, I would ask that you reach out to Laura, myself, Wade, one of your leaders, and talk to them about that, because we don't want you to get to the very last session and feel uncomfortable about something. We want you to be comfortable through this. So you have a couple pieces of homework. That is going to be due Wednesday, the 21st. So you have a couple extra days than normal. So next Wednesday is when this is due. You are going to administer, this says soft serve tab, so sorry about that. You're going to administer the treat tab, just the treat portion, and the summary tab. Okay, so you're going to complete both of those on a training buddy, because what you're doing is verifying that they have the knowledge. So I'm going to go back to the skills assessment. You're going to be asked to complete this section here. Okay, so you need to do all of this. You need to do the summary where you click to enter observations. This overall comments box, this is the only box where you should put any opinions that you have. If you think this person's going to make a great manager, you can say, I really like this person. I think they're going to do a great job as a manager. This is where you can type it. Every other box that says click here to enter observations should be behavior-based feedback. It should be detailed observations, should not be opinions. It should be what you have witnessed. Okay? It could be something that a training buddy witnessed is all. You will then check satisfactory or unsatisfactory. Again, if you send us one of these with the failure and unsatisfactory, and we're like, did you know this was going to happen? We'll come back and ask you that question. You type, enter the date here. You do the treat tab, same thing. You're going to start at the top. You're going to do all of this, everything through this. You do not need to do numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6, just the summary and the treat tab. Now, what some people do is they will delete tabs. So I know I'm not going to have to do Texas Country Foods. So I'm just going to right click and I'm going to delete that tab. You can do that and just keep the 3 tabs that you're going to need, summary, treat, and grill number 5. You can do that. It makes the data smaller. So the file size is smaller. It's a little easier to send. If you all are keeping a database, it shrinks what's being saved in your database. So I would recommend that as well. So this is what you're going to spend your time completing. You're going to email that to the field trainer. So Laura, myself, and Wade. You're going to send it to your directors of training and your business consultant, either Patrick or Randy. Questions about completing the skills assessment? Dan, yes, that form will be emailed when we send out the recap. So it'll be part of that with the link. So Dan, I'm going to ask you to please work with Mary. Make sure she understands everything that we talked about today, that she's comfortable with that. If she has any specific questions, she can reach out to us and we can try to answer those if it's a question you're not able to answer.
Plus, she has the audio that she can listen to.
Yep, she can do that. Yep.
And any other assignments, Russell, that they have not completed, please send.
Yep. Anything you haven't, we'd love to have all that stuff. And then also we want you to go and look at the SMFB objectives and schedule. So I'll try to remember to send the schedule because it sounded like Teresa, you maybe did not get them. And so I'll try to send that. And I might just send this service management financial basic skills assessment as well. Just to make sure that we have everything we need. But the objectives is on page 47 and 48 of your RTS workbook is where you'll find that. The schedule will be on the email that we'll send. What questions do you have for us before we say goodbye?
I'm going to put all those, Russell, I'll just put them all in one email. So it goes with the,
yes,
I'll do the skills assessment, PE, before without the, not in the recap. I'll just put it in the one I just sent. So I'll do the skills assessment for PE and then the 2 SMFB things. Okay. And that way they have them.
When the recap goes out, I don't need to send any attachments. Correct. It'll just be the recap.
That way they have it if they want to get started on it. I'll do it right now.
Perfect. All right. Y'all have a good one. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Have a good one. Talk to y'all later.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Take care.
Hey. Bye, Patrick. Oh, Amanda, I didn't mark you on the. Have you been there a long time, Amanda?
No, I just creeped in
Okay. Stop
at the end.
recording. Okay. I was like,